The sun had barely risen when Ethan Cole stepped out of his apartment. The familiar smell of brewing coffee drifting from the kitchen Mia had already walked away from. It was the same routine, her making the coffee, him leaving before he could drink it. But lately, even routine felt strained. He closed the door quietly behind him, adjusting the strap of his worn-out work bag. The hallway lights buzzed softly, flickering like they too were tired. Ethan sighed, mentally preparing himself for another 10-hour shift at the mechanical engineering firm. He wasn't exhausted because of work. He was exhausted because work had become the only thing he was sure he was still good at. His phone vibrated. A text from Mia. "Drive safe. See you tonight." The question mark bothered him. There was a time when she ended texts with hearts, emojis, inside jokes, anything but a question mark. He typed back, "Of course, I'll make it early today." He wouldn't. He knew it. She knew it. But he typed it anyway. At the office, Ethan dove into calculations, blueprints, and machinery simulations. Work was honest, numbers didn't lie. Machines didn't hide meanings between words. But midway through lunch, his coworker and best friend Derek nudged his shoulder. "You okay, man? You look tired." Ethan forced a laugh. "Just work." "Nah." Derek shook his head. "You look tired in the soul." Ethan didn't respond. He didn't know how to. Derek leaned closer. "Look, Ethan, you've been working late for months. You ever think maybe Mia needs you home more?" Ethan stiffened. "I'm doing this for us." "Yeah, but does she know that?" Derek asked gently. The question settled heavily in Ethan's chest. He didn't answer, not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know how. When Ethan finally got home that night, close to midnight, rather than the early evening, he promised the apartment felt unusually silent. No TV, no music, no lights, just silence. He found Mia in the living room, sitting on the couch with her legs folded under her, staring at her phone. Her hair fell messily over her shoulder, and a half-finished glass of wine sat on the table. She didn't look up when he walked in. "You're late," she said, voice emotionless. "I know," Ethan replied softly. "I'm sorry. The project. It's always the project," she interrupted. He dropped his keys onto the counter. "I'm trying. I know you're trying," she whispered. "But you're trying everywhere except here." Ethan felt that like a punch to the gut. He sat next to her, but she leaned away almost imperceptibly, not enough for a fight, but enough to be felt. He searched her face for softness, for love, for the warmth she used to pour into him without hesitation. He found none. "Did you eat?" he asked quietly. "No? Why not?" "Wasn't hungry?" He sighed. "Mia, talk to me." She finally looked at him and he saw something unfamiliar in her eyes. Something defeated, something tired, something like she'd stopped believing in him. "What do you want me to say?" she whispered. "That I'm lonely. That I miss you even when you're standing right in front of me." Ethan swallowed hard. "I'm doing all this for us." "Yeah," her voice cracked. "Then why does it feel like you redoing it for a future that doesn't even include me?" The words sliced deeper than he expected. Before he could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it quickly, flipping it face down. Too quickly, Ethan noticed. He didn't say anything. He could have asked, "Who is that? Why hide it? Why turn the screen away?" But he didn't, because he trusted her. He trusted her so much it blinded him. "I'll do better," Ethan murmured. Mia didn't answer. She stood up, whispered, "I'm going to bed," and disappeared down the hallway. Ethan remained on the couch long after she was gone, staring at the blank TV screen, feeling the weight of an unspoken truth pressing down on him. Something was wrong, very wrong. And for the first time, Ethan felt afraid not of losing Mia, but of realizing he might have already lost her. The days that followed were a blur of quiet tension, familiar routines, coated with a heavy layer of distance, neither of them acknowledged but both felt. Ethan woke early as usual, slipping out of bed silently so he wouldn't disturb Mia, but she was often already awake, scrolling through her phone with tight, tired eyes. One morning she was dressed earlier than usual, hair straightened, makeup perfect, wearing perfume Ethan hadn't smelled before. "You're up early," Ethan said, grabbing his keys. "Client meeting," she replied without looking at him. He nodded. "Need a ride?" "No, he's picking me up." Ethan froze slightly. My client," she clarified quickly, then added, "It's nothing weird." Ethan forced a smile. "Right, of course." But something twisted in his stomach. At work, he couldn't focus. His mind spun circles around her tone, her appearance, the sudden meetings. When Derek noticed Ethan staring blankly at his computer screen, he tapped the desk. "You good, man?" Ethan snapped out of it. "Yeah, just tired." "Is it Mia?" He hesitated. "I don't know, maybe." Derek leaned back. "Talk to her." "I've been trying," and Ethan exhaled. She's distant. And there's this new perfume, new clothes, new everything." Derek raised a brow. "And a new client picking her up in the morning." Ethan shot him a sharp look. "Don't do that. I'm not accusing her. I'm telling you to pay attention." The words stuck with Ethan long after he left the office. That night, Mia texted him, "Don't wait up." "Running late," he replied. "Everything okay?" No response. Hours stretched painfully. Ethan's chest tightened with an unnameable dread. When she finally came home after 11 p.m., she smelled faintly of cologne. "Long night?" he asked. "Yeah," she replied simply. "With your client?" Her shoulders stiffened for half a second. Why? You don't trust me. Ethan shook his head immediately. I do. I'm just asking. She exhaled sharply. It was work, Ethan, that's all. He believed her, because believing her hurt less than imagining the alternative. One weekend he planned to surprise her favorite dinner, candles, soft music. He cleaned the apartment spotless. He wrote a small note, I miss us. He waited. An hour passed. Then two. Mia finally walked in, laughing at something on her phone. She stopped when she saw the setup. Her smile faded. What is this? Ethan forced a gentle tone. I just wanted a nice night with you. She rubbed her forehead. Ethan, I'm tired. I had a long day. I thought this would help, he said softly. It doesn't, she replied too quickly. Not tonight. The rejection hit him like a wave crashing violently over a fragile wall. She walked straight to the bedroom, leaving him sitting alone at a beautifully set table that suddenly felt foolish. He stared at the candles flickering sadly in the dim room. Then he noticed her phone on the counter screen lighting up. A name he didn't recognize appeared. A man's name. His stomach churned, but he didn't touch it. Didn't look closer. Didn't follow the ache that told him everything he feared might be true. He blew out the candles. And for the first time, he wondered if saving the relationship alone meant he was the only one fighting for it. It was supposed to be a simple decision: leave work early, just this once, surprise Mia, and remind her that he still cared. Ethan hadn't left work before 7 p.m. in months. Derek practically pushed him out the door. Go home, Derek insisted. Show her she matters. Ethan smiled weakly. Yeah, maybe it'll help. He picked up Mia's favorite Thai food from the small restaurant down the street. The smell filled his car, warm and comforting, everything he hoped the evening would be. As he drove, he rehearsed what he'd say. I know I've been distant. I'm sorry. I'm trying. His stomach fluttered with a strange mix of anxiety and hope. The apartment parking lot was half empty, the orange sunset casting long shadows across the pavement. Ethan walked up the stairs, food bag in one hand, note in his pocket. He paused outside the door. He heard something. Muffled voices, soft, close, too close. His heart thudded in his chest. He leaned closer. Laughter. A man's laughter. Ethan froze completely, every muscle stiff. No, he must be imagining it. Maybe the TV was on. Maybe Mia had a friend over. Maybe. But another sound followed, soft, intimate, unmistakably close. His fingers trembled on the doorknob as he unlocked the door quietly. The apartment was dim, but not dark. Lamps glowed faintly, shoes were scattered on the floor, and a man's jacket hung on the chair. Ethan's breath left his body in a trembling exhale. He stepped inside silently, each footstep slow, deliberate, his heart pounding so loudly he feared they could hear it from the bedroom. The voices grew clearer. Then came the sound that shattered him completely, a breathy laugh. Mia's laugh, one he hadn't heard in weeks. Inside the bedroom, he moved toward the hallway like a ghost, numbness replacing blood in his veins. His hand hovered over the door handle. He didn't want to open it. He didn't want his life to split in two, but he had to. He pushed the door open. Time froze. Mia was on the bed, tangled with another man, shirtless, intimate, close in a way Ethan hadn't felt from her in months. Mia gasped, eyes wide with horror. Ethan, she stammered, scrambling to cover herself. The man cursed under his breath, pulling away. Ethan didn't move. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. Everything inside him felt hollowed out, emptied in one brutal instant. Mia reached toward him. Ethan, please, this isn't. But he didn't hear the excuses. He didn't hear the panic. All he heard was his own heartbeat breaking inside the silence. He dropped the food bag on the floor gently, as though he were laying down something precious. Then he turned around, walked out, didn't say a word. Mia shouted after him, screaming his name, her voice cracking into raw desperation. But Ethan didn't look back, not once. As he descended the stairs, each step felt like 1,000 pounds. The cold air outside hit him like a slap, yet he kept walking, because if he stopped, he knew he would collapse. Mia rushed after him, still pulling on her clothes, her face streaked with panic. But by the time she made it outside, Ethan's car was already backing out of the parking lot. Ethan, please. He didn't stop, didn't roll down the window, didn't slow. Her knees buckled when his car turned the corner and disappeared from sight. Her breath hitched violently, and she pressed her trembling hands to her face. Inside, the man she cheated with quietly gathered his things. He muttered, "Look, I should go." She didn't respond. He slipped out silently, leaving her collapsed on the couch, shaking. The apartment felt suddenly cold, suffocating, lifeless in a way she'd never felt before. Ethan's silence lingered like a ghost in the room. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in his car halfway down the street, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. His chest heaved, breath shallow, heart pounding. He didn't cry, he didn't shout. He felt nothing, absolutely nothing, except the echo of one single moment: Mia's guilty, frightened eyes meeting his. The world blurred around him as he drove aimlessly, not caring where he was going. He ended up at a cheap roadside motel and checked in without meeting the receptionist's eyes. The room was small, quiet, empty, exactly what he needed. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall with blank, lifeless eyes. Hours passed. His phone buzzed. Then again, he didn't check it. He didn't want to see her name. He didn't want to hear apologies. He didn't want to relive the image burned into his mind. He lay back on the stiff mattress, stared at the ceiling, and finally, after what felt like an eternity, one tear slipped down his face. Just one. But it carried the weight of everything she had destroyed. Meanwhile, Mia sat on the floor of their apartment, surrounded by memories she didn't want to look at. Every picture frame felt like a dagger. Every silent second screamed her guilt louder than any words could. She called him again, voicemail. She texted, "Ethan, please. Please don't leave me. It was a mistake. We can fix this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." No response. She threw her phone across the room and collapsed into sobs, her chest aching with a pain she didn't know how to contain. For the first time, she understood. His silence hurt far more than any yelling ever could. Ethan didn't sleep that night. The motel's ancient air conditioner hummed loudly, but his thoughts were louder. Every time he blinked, he saw it again: the scene in the bedroom, the man's jacket on the chair, the perfume that wasn't his, the look on her face. He sat up, running a hand through his hair. His phone buzzed again. 50 messages, 10+ missed calls. He didn't open a single one. Instead, he turned the phone face down on the nightstand. The next morning, he forced himself to go to work. Derek took one look at him and knew something was wrong. "Ethan," Derek said softly, "you okay?" Ethan shook his head silently. Derek didn't push. He just placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "I'm here if you want to talk," but Ethan couldn't. Not yet. Meanwhile, Mia was unraveling. She sat curled up on the couch, clutching Ethan's hoodie to her chest, sobbing until her voice turned hoarse. The apartment smelled like him, and every piece of furniture reminded her of what she had thrown away. She replayed Ethan's expression over and over, how empty his eyes looked, how quiet he was, how he didn't say a single word. That silence haunted her more than anything. She texted again. "Please come home. I can't breathe. I love you. I messed up. I know I did. Please just talk to me." But Ethan kept the phone face down. He couldn't go back. He could barely breathe. Ethan slowly tried to rebuild a sense of normalcy. He forced himself to eat, forced himself to shower, forced himself to go to work. But every night, he returned to that small motel room, where grief filled the empty spaces like heavy fog. One evening, he sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his reflection in the dark TV screen. He looked older, tired, broken, and for the first time, he whispered to himself, "I deserved better." The words were small, but they were the first step toward healing. Mia couldn't function. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. Every time she closed her eyes, she pictured Ethan standing in the doorway, silent, hurt, shattered. She'd expected yelling, anger, anything but the crushing quiet he left behind. Her friend Layla stopped by and gasped at the state of the apartment. "Mia, what happened?" Mia broke down in her arms. "I lost him, Layla. I lost him." Layla stepped back. "Wait, what do you mean?" I cheated," Mia confessed through tears. "He walked in, and he saw everything." Layla stared at her in disbelief. "Mia, how could you do that? Ethan worships you." "I know," Mia sobbed, "and I ruined it." Layla didn't have an answer. No one did. Mia tried to call Ethan again. No answer. She drove to his workplace, crying in the car the whole way. But security wouldn't let her upstairs. "He isn't taking visitors," they said. She begged, pleaded. But Ethan had instructed them to decline anyone not on his visitor list. Especially her. She collapsed against the cold marble wall of the lobby, shaking violently. "Please," she whispered. "Please let me fix this." But no one could. That night, she went to the motel, after tracking his location from their shared device settings. She knocked on his door, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, please, please, open the door." "Silence. I'll do anything," she cried. "Just talk to me, please." Still silence. Security arrived minutes later and escorted her out gently, telling her she couldn't disturb other guests. She left, devastated. For the first time in her life, Mia truly understood regret, not the soft kind, but the sharp, gut-wrenching kind that chews through your soul. After a week of relentless messages, Ethan finally agreed to meet her, not because he wanted to get back together, but because he needed closure. They met at a quiet park bench near a lake. Mia saw him walking toward her and burst into tears instantly. She looked fragile, pale, exhausted, trembling. "Ethan," she choked. He sat down, keeping a small distance. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Mia whispered, "I'm sorry." Ethan stared at the lake. "I know." She wiped her tears. I was stupid. I was lonely. You were always working, and I felt invisible. You could have told me," Ethan said quietly. "I know," she whispered. "But I didn't, and I hurt you more than I ever meant to." He finally turned to her. "You didn't just hurt me," he said softly. "You broke me." She sobbed harder. "Please, give me another chance. I'll do anything. I'll prove it every day. I'll fix everything." Ethan shook his head slowly. "I don't hate you," he said. "But I can't be with you. Not after what I saw. Not after what you chose." Mia reached for him instinctively, but he pulled his hand back gently. "I need to heal," he said. "And I can't heal with you." Mia crumbled, her cries echoing through the quiet park. Ethan stood up. "I hope you find peace someday," he whispered. And then he walked away again, but this time, he didn't break. This time, he walked away for himself. 3 months passed. Ethan moved into a new apartment, smaller, quieter, but peaceful. He joined a gym, rebuilt friendships he had neglected, and spent weekends hiking or reading. His eyes no longer looked hollow. He breathed easier. He smiled more. He rediscovered pieces of himself he'd lost while trying to hold a relationship together alone. Work improved, too. He got promoted after finishing his project with renewed focus. Derek noticed the change. "You look lighter," Derek said one day. Ethan nodded. "I am." Meanwhile, Mia lived in the ruins of her choices. She cried less now, but the emptiness stayed. The apartment still smelled faintly of Ethan. She kept expecting him to walk in, drop his keys, and smile at her. But he never did. She started therapy, trying to understand the insecurities that led her to destroy the best thing she ever had. One day, she drafted a final message to Ethan. "I'm not asking you to come back. I just want to say thank you for loving me so deeply. And I'm sorry for breaking that love. I hope your new life brings you peace." She hit send. Ethan read it that evening. He stared at it for a long moment. Then, he deleted the message. Not out of anger, but because keeping it would keep him tied to the pain. He stepped outside onto his balcony and let the cool evening air fill his lungs. The sunset painted the sky in warm golds and soft pink colors that felt hopeful. For the first time in a long time, Ethan felt free. He whispered to himself, "I'm going to be okay," and he finally believed it.